Hey everyone, Equinoct here, and welcome to Iwaihime, a horror visual novel created by the same people who did the When They Cry franchise, which is one of my favorite series. Since it is the spooky season once again, I figured I'd give this a go. It looks really creepy, just from the pictures I've seen. I don't know anything about this game, aside from it's a visual novel, and spooky things are sure to arise, so without further ado, let's get into it. And here I figured he'd be the one embarrassed to show up late.
かっこつけすぎたかな。私ってばかっこ悪い。
Tsubakiko. I let my enthusiasm get the better of me and arrived too early. I would have felt guilty otherwise, making him wait at some station he'd never visited after the long trip here.
すずむ、背はどのくらいあるのかな。写メじゃよくわかんないよね。
Suzumu. It's gonna take me a while to get used to all these names. Suzumu was my distant relative. Like me, he was 16 and a junior in high school. Starting the spring, he would be living here in Suzuda, going to the same school as me too. He said he'd know where my place was, but normally you pick people up at the station, right? Still though, that was no excuse for my premature arrival. Sorry guys, I'm trying to...
すずむ、少し早く着いたりしないかな。
It's harder for me to read coherently when I don't know what's about to happen. Also, I love her design. That's a cool looking jacket. Let's see, I see a little bird cage. Necklace looks like a heart with the bow on it. That's adorable. And I really love this skull-shaped hair breadth. That's cute. Alright, it should be nice if we got in a little... Alright. He seemed like the punctual type, so I figured he'd be more likely to get here 5 minutes ahead of time. There was no way he'd show up an hour early. Yet I had to go and get the brilliant idea to show up over an hour ahead of schedule anyway. I wasn't trying to get that carried away, but... honestly, it just kind of happened. Killing time at a chic coffee shop would be ideal for this sort of situation. But, well, I didn't want to waste over 300 yen on my meager allowance on a single cup of coffee. Sounds like Starbucks. So there I was, leaning against a pillar in front of the ticket gate, looking like a fool as I stared off into space. Is there any way to speed up the words? Because I have to click to make them all appear at once. Oh well. At first I was worried about my hair looking funny, like I was waiting for my first date or something. But those silly feelings passed after a while. Eventually, I found myself simply staring blankly at the bustling crowds of people, my mind as blank as... my mind as blank and staticky as a TV turned into a dead channel. No matter how much I checked my phone, it wouldn't change the fact that I still had another 50 or so minutes to go. It'd be nice if I could find a game or something to pass the time. But since I was still recharging MP in Wanya Dora, I couldn't play it for another 12 hours.
駅ってさ、何気に超
Oh.
メジャーでポピュラーな自殺スポットだと思うんだよね。
Alright, note to self. Put a trigger warning in front of the video. All of a sudden, my channel locked onto a single voice speaking amidst the crowds. The voice appeared to be that of a young office worker all by herself, perhaps talking on the phone.
どんな自殺の名所もさ、結構行くの大変じゃん。覚悟とか度胸とか、というか行くのに時間かかるっていうか。だって思わない？富士の樹海とかで死ぬ人ってどんだけ頑張ってるわけ？樹海までの行き方調べて、電車乗って乗り換えて乗り換えて、歩いて歩いて。普通死ぬためだけにそこまでやるかね。家で首つった方がどんだけ楽かって思うでしょ。
Jesus. She was discussing a rather morbid topic, with the same energy one would the latest fashions and trends. That said, I had to admit it was fascinating.
首つるのだってそうそう簡単じゃないって。首をつるロープかその代わりのものなんてそうそう家にはないよ。
What in the world? Now that she mentioned it, I couldn't think of anything at my place that, oh my god, that could support my weight. Are we getting into some dangerous territory here? Going to the store to get rope or something just to hang yourself seemed like a real fast way to kill the mood. Yeah, even just hanging yourself took effort.
自殺ってさ、初恋の男の子に今だって告白するような勢いとタイミングでするもんでしょ。
That was quite the simile. Simile. I was about to say smile. It was in no way a funny topic, yet I almost giggled. The days of seppuku were long in the past, so most suicides these days were done on impulse. With that, I saw what she was getting at about the train stations being suicide hotspots.
駅ってさ、学生でも社会人でも誰もが日常に利用している場所なわけだよね。それでホームで電車を待っている時間ってどんなに忙しい人でも自分を顧みるいい時間になるわけじゃん。
And so in those few minutes waiting for the train, it could cross your mind how easy it would be just to end it all. Train platforms were truly a wonder in that sense. If the thought of killing yourself passed through your head, you wouldn't even need to prepare anything special. All it would take is a few steps towards the edge of the platform. Sure, you'd have to wait for the train first, but those arrive every few minutes during the busy hours. A desire to die in a few minutes of spacing out, that was all you needed. Jesus. We are not even 5 minutes in this game yet.
ね、
Oh, shit, I
最高
missed
の自
that.
殺スポットだと思わない？コンビニやカラオケくらいに身近でお手軽なカジュアルな自殺スポットだと思うわけ。疲れたらコンビニで栄養剤買ったり、カラオケでストレス発散したりとかするでしょ。駅もそれと同じじゃないかなって。
I don't know who this woman is, but she's got some demons. So in other words, when you're tired of life, it should be okay to treat the idea of killing yourself almost casually. That's what she was saying. That is incredibly dangerous mindset to have. Suicide was supposed to be really tragic and serious, right? Yet this woman was talking about how death shouldn't be considered that big of a deal. like cutting your hair short for a change of pace, or splurging on a fantastic overseas vacation. In other words, resetting your life should be treated just as lightly as all of that. I didn't know I didn't know if it was because I was sleepy or what, but her words felt like they were awakening something awfully new and fascinating inside of me. Not sure I like where this is going.
自殺って何もとことん追い詰められるまで考えちゃいけないものではないのかも。
Like, surely she isn't. I think, like, she has to be the main character, isn't she? Like how you might change up your hair after a breakup. Or how you might treat yourself to a makeover, or a new purse on a whim. Maybe it really should be treated as casually as that. Nope. Nope, 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 nope.
自殺って言葉が私は物騒だと思うんだよね。
確かに。
エステで新陳代謝を改善して新しいお肌に生まれ変わらせるのと全く同じ感じ。
I have a feeling this woman
だから
isn't...
自分殺しなんて物騒な言葉じゃなくて。
I don't know what the overall thing with this game is. I don't know if it's the supernatural or what, but I have a feeling this woman isn't really human. Like maybe she's a demon or an angry ghost trying to tempt her into doing this.
人生のリピュアとかってどうかな。ね、なんか素敵な響きになったと思わない？
人生のリピュア。
Yeah, that did have a nice ring to it. It was only then that I realized the woman had been talking to me. She was leaning against the other side of the pillar. I turned around and locked eyes with her. She was an older woman in her 20s or so, with stunning long hair, and a somewhat compassionate aura around her.
してみると結構驚いちゃうよ。ああ、こんなに簡単だったんだって。なんで今まで無駄に怖がってたんだろう。バカみたいって。
したことあるんですか？リピュア。
Oh, have you?
うん。
Yeah, she's dead. So can Tsubakiko see ghosts? Is that what this game is? She answered as if I had simply asked her for the time. Wait, hold on a second. I felt as though my entire world had been turned upside down. Ooh. I grew as dizzy as if heaven and earth had been inverted, and the sounds of the crowd around me grew deafening, as though someone had turned up the volume on them. Oh, don't do it, girl. All of a sudden, I found myself at the very front of a crowded platform, beyond where the waiting line would usually start. I wasn't even a full step away from going over the edge, but there was a sea of people behind me. It was as packed as a can of sardines. Trying to force them back did no good, and if I tried to push my way through them, they pushed back just as hard.
見てみて、下を。
I heard the woman close by, but I couldn't see her. I didn't plan on listening to her, but a push from behind instinctively drew my eyes to my feet. I was stunned by what I found. Where there should have been gravel and train tracks was instead a vast blue sky spreading out as far as the eye could see. Beautiful fields of cloud adorned that light blue sea. It was like I was looking down from a floating island. No, wait. Those clouds seemed familiar. They were just like those towering, I know the word, but I'm trying to... Cumulonimbus. Cumulonimbus. I learned this in 5th grade. Come on, Dylan. What's wrong with you? Clouds I had been one summer when I was a kid, lying on the field in a nature park. That's right. There wasn't a sky below me. The sky I had looked up at on that day was under my eyes. And just as soon as I realized that, I felt as though gravity had been turned on its head. My chest grew light with a desire to be sucked into that blue ocean. Like that feeling you get when you finally reach the top of a tall slide after waiting in a long line.
おいでよ。
The picture is beautiful, but the music and so far this is a very creepy contradiction.
すっごい簡単であっさりだよ。怖くなんかないから。なんでそっちにこだわってたのかバカみたいになるよ。
The woman appeared before me, holding her hand out to me. I have no idea how she got there without me noticing. Almost like she'd walked up to me as I lay gazing at the sky on that field, inviting me to go with her. And it wasn't just her. There were other women there, her friends or co-workers, maybe, along with men in suits. Though it felt like they were inviting me to a barbecue or something, they looked so out of place in their suits that it felt kind of silly to me.
でもこれ
Jumping off the platform, right? But there was an announcement signaling the arrival of the next train. And yet everyone was coaxing me over to them, their faces plastered with blissful smiles. Almost like they were telling me I'd miss the train if I didn't hurry. But couldn't they hear that screeching of metal against the tracks? The train was coming. I couldn't jump. If I did, I'd...
ほら、早く。怖くないから。痛くもないんだよ。
Hurry, hurry. You're going to miss it. Everyone said that as they reached out and waved to me. Like telling me I'd miss out on all the fun if I didn't come along. But they were asking the impossible because... hadn't they all been... crushed to pieces? Their hands, feet, and heads were all crushed to pieces, weren't they? There was no blue sky, just a blanket of scarlet stones dyed reddish-brown by the elements and rust. Faded metal rails, like prison bars, reaching out into the distance. It was from there that the dead moaned, pushing through the track ballast as they desperately reached out to me. Their own buried hell beneath the stone, its residents doomed to be crushed under the weight of each passing train, unnoticed by the living day after day. The mutilated dead moaned their agony as they desperately sought new companions. One of them had become nothing more than a partly crushed head. Oh god, this is disturbing. Another's outstretched hand had fallen right off their arm. An indecipherable jumble of hands and feet squeezed through the stones as they beckoned me over. Chills ran through me from head to toe. I wanted to back away, but the sea of people behind me were pushing back just as hard against me. No, even harder. Stop! I'm gonna fall. However, they were clearly winning. My toes had already stretched out past the platforms and were trembling in midair. I stretched my arms as far as they could go, grabbed onto someone behind me and held on for dear life. But the encroaching wall of flesh kept pushing. By this point, my heels were already halfway over the platform. The eyes of the mechanical carnivore gleamed as it grew closer. The train rushed forward, crushing the moaning dead underfoot as it did. The screams of the damned joined in chorus, with the metallic screeching as the train approached with a fierce velocity. It'll swallow me whole if I don't get out of the way. But just then, I found myself dancing in midair. At that moment, the stone graveyard of the suffering suddenly transformed into that magnificent sky once again. I couldn't tell if I was falling or floating. Congratulations, congratulations. Everyone stood on that field of grass under the sky, their arms raised as if in celebration, and waited for me. I fell gently into their clutches. Almost like I was light as a feather. Their countless hands caught me comfortably.
ね、怖くなかったでしょ。ようこそ私たち側の世界へ。あなたと一緒に来れて嬉しいよ。だって誰にも私の声が届かないんだもの。
Hehehehe. There is no pain or suffering here, nor sorrow nor anger. No irritation or frustration either. They're all things of the past here. Ha, heh. Of course, the same goes for hope, salvation, resurrection, and rebirth. The transient illusion was all a lie. The sky, clouds, field, and people who'd welcomed me all vanished. I was lying on the rails, bound tight by the countless hands. That's right, I was a sacrifice to the steel behemoth. Oh god, oh my god, the sound effects. Screech, smash. I am... I'm laughing because I am uncomfortable. My body was knocked down to nothing. Oh, Jesus. My body was knocked down to nothing but the to nothing by the jaws of the train in the blink of an eye. All my bones broke with a sound akin to the crushing of a candy bar. I heard that with the ear remaining on my severed head. Naturally, not even my severed head could escape those steel jaws, of course. Who would have thought that sound could be music to one's ears? Crunch, smash. What a pleasant sound. It was not pleasant. Like, sinking your incisors into the skin of a crisp candy apple. Me and my words. I'm sorry. It was a bit of a surprise to discover how gratifying it was, to have my body devoured. Deep down, I understood it was an evil, detestable temptation. But being so thoroughly gnawed at was a sensation both satisfying and amusing beyond comprehension. You know how it feels good when you're stretching and you feel your joints crack? Well, try picturing that, but all over your body, like goosebumps, and it keeps happening over and over again. Then you might understand. Crunch, smash. I knew, of course, that I shouldn't get into that kind of pleasure. But by that point, my body had been reduced to little more than an assortment of paste and limbs sewn across the rails. I don't like hearing that right in my ear. Crunch, smash, ha ha, ha ha ha. This game is already insane. What little there was left of me was being dragged under the track bed. A world of crushed limbs and innards. I gotta say, I was not expecting this game to start off this strong, but it seemed that wasn't enough to kill them. Agonized moans filled the air. He. I understood. This was liberation. I didn't have to remember my day-to-day life any longer. I didn't have to keep spacing out and waiting without end. Waiting? Hold on. Would I come to the station again? Oh well, who cared? It didn't matter anymore. Oh, another train was coming. Screech, crunch, smash. The wheels of the train crushed hundreds more limbs and torsos and organs. He, crunch, smash, he. A blinding light gradually intruded on my ecstasy, and all traces of thought came to an end.
大丈夫?
Is that all just a dream? Tsubakiko panted as she returned to reality. She was leaning against the pillar in front of the station, waiting for Zuzumu, who was still, that was still the same. But one thing was different. Time had advanced to the point of Zuzumu's arrival.
うなされてるみたいな感じだったよ。
そうだった。寝ぼけてたかも。
Tsubakiko gave a slight nod as she suggested that perhaps she'd been spacing out for so long. She had a waking dream.
大丈夫? 少し休む?
大丈夫。本当、ちょっとぼんやりしてただけ。
何か悪い夢でも見てた?
Dreams can sometimes be so clear that they feel real when you're in them. Yet in most cases, you barely remember what they were about the moment you wake up. Tsubakiko couldn't put it into words. All she knew was that it was a bizarre, grotesque daydream. She couldn't recall anything more than that. But as she stared at Suzumu's face, her mind started clearing up. She could feel herself returning to reality, the daydream being driven away in a flash. She'd already completely forgotten that fantastical delusion that taken hold of her. People don't tend to retain every detail of the daydreams or fantasies they might have when spacing out, after all. Fantasies like that happen all the time.
ごめんね。ちょっと早く来すぎて、ぼんやりしてるうちに居眠りしちゃってたかも。
どのくらい早く来てたの?
1時間くらいかな。
それはすごいな。僕のためにそんなに早くから待っててくれたの?
別にスズムのためにってわけじゃないわけ。た またまちょっと早く来すぎちゃったってだけの話。男子は細かいこと気にしなくていいの。
キコちゃんは面白いな。
田舎者のスズムが駅で迷子になってたら気の毒だなーって。それで早く来て待ってたわけ。Do you understand?
迷子になったら来るのは早まるんじゃなくて遅くなると思うけどな。
荷物はそれで全部？カバン1個持ってあげるね。
あ、大丈夫だよ。重いよ。
ノーノープロブレム。うわー
Tsubakiko snatched Suzumu's travel bag out of his grasp, not grip, only to drop it to her feet with a thud.
何これ、めちゃくちゃ重いじゃん。
だから重いよって言ったのに。
スズムが軽そうに持ってたからてっきり軽いんだとばっかり。ひょっとしてリュックの方が軽かったりする？そっちへ持ってあげる。
大丈夫だよ。それにこのカバンより重いよ。
スズムって結構力持ちなんだね。さすがは男子。ああ、そっか、武道をやってるんだったっけ。
まあ腕だけは鍛えてるからね。
昔と変わらず一見細そうなのに随分成長しちゃったね。
I'm sorry, like, this is a good conversation and all, it's really nice, but can we get the fuck out of this train station? That's all I'm thinking
キ
about
コちゃ
right
んこそ
now.
実際に会ったらこんなにも可愛らしく成長してたんですっごい驚いちゃった。
そう、ありがとう。お世辞でも嬉しいかな。
お世辞なんかじゃないよ。キコちゃんはすごく可愛らしくなったと思う。
ありがとう。まあ私も女子やってるしキュートになるよう毎日努力してるしね。
There wasn't a single hint of flattery in Suzumu's compliments, making Tsubakiko even more embarrassed. Her heart was all aflutter at the thought that Suzumu might turn out to be one heck of a lady killer. His full name was Suzumu Suzuhara. Suzumu Suzuhara. Yep. Just like Tsubakiko, he was 16 years old and in 11th grade. He wouldn't be going to the same school. Oh, he would be going to the same school as her starting in April. As per family tradition, he would start living on his own from this year onwards. His large backpack and traveling bag contained his personal belongings and the like. That said, he was still a minor, so it wasn't like he would be truly living on his own just yet. The Harumiyas. Tsubakiko and her parents would be taking care of him. Tsubakiko Harumiya. Suzumu and Tsubakiko were relatives. However, they were 6 times removed, so they could hardly be considered close in terms of blood ties. What's more, the two hadn't seen each other since their great-grandfather's funeral over a decade ago. Their parents had told them each how the other was doing, but this was the first time in so long that they were truly meeting face to face. Despite that, they didn't feel like strangers at all. Family ties truly are a curious thing. Even if today had been their first meeting, Tsubakiko wouldn't have been opposed to welcoming him into the family at all. It was strange, but that's just how close she felt to him.
じゃあ行
騒がしいね。
Uh-oh. The station employees were all afluster. The teenagers exiting the station were rambling on about something, their faces pale.
飛び込みらしいよ。それもたった今だって。
何それ、怖い。
Is it the woman?
髪の長い若い OL が電車に飛び込んだって言ってるね。
Damn. An office lady in her 20s with long hair?
怖い。
気の毒だね。死んで咲く花なんてないのに。
Oh. Maybe she was rejuvenating her life.
リ何？
なんだっけ。
For a moment, images of a field under a blue sky and a woman with that unsettling smile flashed through Tsubakiko's mind. But they faded into the fog of oblivion just as soon as they'd appear. After all, it was pointless to remember daydreams. Yeah, get the fuck out of there.
ここがキコち
And
ゃん
just
の
like
住む
that,
アパー
happy
トなんだ。
music! My father considered living alone to be a trial of sorts for me. For generations, men of the Suzuhara family had lived independently after reaching a certain age. Oh, so are we, Suzumu's point of view now? Only once one had trained his mind and body, reverse those, without relying on others, was he considered a full-fledged adult. I'd eagerly awaited this opportunity for as long as I could remember. That was why I studied up on all sorts of things in preparation for this day, so I could live on my own. The thought of finally being able to put all that to the test excited me beyond words.
はい、これスズムの部屋の鍵。2階の202号室ね。
ありがとう。僕だけの家か。なんだかワクワクするな。
Kiko's family, the Harumiyas. Oh, Kiko being Tsubakiko. Her full name was Tsubakiko Harumiya. Anyway, Kiko's family, the Harumiyas, yes, we've established the name, let's move on, were landlords who owned several apartment complexes in Suzuda. This quaint two-story apartment complex, Residence Harumiyan 2 was one of them. And I would be living here. I opened the door to find a futon and stacks of cardboard boxes, containing daily necessities waiting for me. The delivery men had already made their rounds.
それにしてもずいぶんいろいろと送ったね。男子なんてせいぜい身の回りのものをカバンに詰め込んだらおしまいかと思ってたな。
自炊しなさいって言って母さんがフライパンとかお鍋とかも送ってくれたからね。
スズム、自炊なんてできるの？
うん、多少はできるつもりでいるよ。得意って胸を張れるほどじゃないけどね。キコちゃんはお料理とかってできるの？
こう見えても将来の夢はプリティな花嫁さんだしね。花嫁修行の一環としてお料理も欠かさずお勉強してるの。デリシャスな手料理でスズムを脳殺しちゃうよ。
へえ、それはすごいや。今度ぜひご馳走してほしいな。
任せて。私も男子の舌に合うかどうか試したいと思ってたから。
Kiko nodded along, her eyes gleaming and her smile beaming. It seems she'd been looking forward to living near a boy her age. What with being in the midst of adolescence and all.
ちなみに隣の201は私の部屋ね。壁薄いからね。聞き耳立てて乙女の秘密を聞こうとしたら血祭りにしちゃうからね。
しないよ、そんなこと。
I mentioned it might be easier to unpack with a box cutter and scissors. So Kiko left the room, saying she'd go get them. With the bright and cheery Kiko gone, and a somewhat chilling stillness filled the room. The place hadn't been renovated, so there were faint traces of the previous owner's existence still lingering about. Oh, that is cool. Like, I just noticed on the walls, you can see stains and stuff. That's pretty realistic. Replacing that with my presence and making the place my own would be among the great pleasures of living alone. But until then, I just have to put up with a bit of discomfort. Just then, long black hair gently tickled my cheek. No? It was just some falling dust. I looked up to the ceiling and discovered it was pitch black, like someone had painted it with soot. It fell gently, like black snow. When I came to my senses, I found myself in a pitch black cloud filled with the falling snow. I couldn't see a thing. However, I could sense many presences. At that moment, I thought I could hear a female voice reading out something like a sutra at length. Her voice sounded youthful, but I couldn't see her anywhere. So can these guys just see ghosts or something and they just appear randomly, like with no build-up or anything? Yeah, that's unsettling. Instead, a giant turquoise object shaped like a spindle, heavy and covered in rust, came into view. It felt like the voice was coming from within it. Many people were sitting around the object. The lights of many candles flickered about, giving the affair of a ritualistic atmosphere. Candlelight danced in the cloud of black soot, illuminating the massive conical mass. I could hear a woman reading, no, praying, singing, inside it. I couldn't help but wonder what in the world that thing was. My eyes were gradually drawn into it. The woman's chants broke into coughs from time to time. My heart wrenched at that sound. It felt like I was going to choke in a cloud of soot as well. Before I knew it, that bizarre object loomed over me like a massive mountain. Then swallowed and squashed my consciousness whole. Iwaihime. Yeah, I think that title translates to Ritual Princess, which sounds pretty cool. So I'm wondering who this princess is and what this whole thing about a ritual is. So is it a prefectural prefectural? I know that's the word, but it's the pronunciation. Prefecture. I'll practice later. Class 2A, my class. Originally, the plan had been for me to transfer here a year ago, back when I was starting high school. But my mother fell ill just before the entrance exams, so I had to stay and help around the house. As a result, I was delayed. She eventually returned from the hospital with a clean bill of health. And so I finally started attending this school 1 year later. At first, I was worried a transfer student like me would attract all sorts of attention and have a hard time. But since there were so many students at the school, I transferred in right at the start of the school year, no one noticed. That was to be expected. A freshman had 8 different classes, so there was no way the students would know everyone in their grade. They all probably figured I had been in a different class last year, just some classmates they hadn't bumped into until now. So no one had any reason to think I was a transfer student unless I told them. That made things much easier for me. What's more, every day at this school wasn't just easy, it was actually pleasant. As for why? Well, first of all, Kiko was in the same class.
はあ、社会眠いよね。眠すぎて授業が終わってもスリスリスリーピーだよ。
ノートちゃんと取ってた？テストに出るって言ってたよ。
え、そんなこと言ってた？
よかったら僕のノートを写す？
うんうん。すずむ、サンキューサンキューだよ。よいしょ。すずむのノート。
何？字汚かった？
女子力高い。なんでこんなにふわふわに書いてあるわけ？すずむの文字丸すぎ、かわいすぎ。
I imagine if he wrote in English, he would dot his I's with little hearts.
そうかな。子供みたいな字で恥ずかしいよ。
あとイラストいっぱい、吹き出しいっぱい。ここはテストに出るよ。ここがポイントだにゃ。って何これ、高すぎる。女子力が高すぎる。
Compared to mine, Kiko's handwriting was rather dull and simplistic. Her boredom with school was payable from her notes alone.
すずむ、あんたのノートいくら出したら私のノートってことにしてくれる？
ダメだよ。勉強は自分で書いて覚えなきゃ。
勉強はどうでもいいから、あんたの女子力少し私に分けなさいよ。これすすはらくんのノートなの？かわいい、わかりやすい。
For some reason, girls had always liked me. Not like I had a clue why. But I had guy friends too.
さすがはススハラ、相変わらずグレートな男だぜ。
Natsuya.
光と影あらば男と女あり。グレートな男になるためには女子力も必要ってわけだな。
それは誤解だよ。
いいや、謙遜するな。俺はめめしいなんて思ってないぜ。お前のグレートな全てを吸収してやる。見ろ、俺のノート。
うわー。
Natsu's proudly displayed his notebook, filled to the brim with drawings. Though it looked like he had more drawings than actual notes.
汚い落書きでいっぱい。
グレート可愛いだろ。俺も自分の中に女子力が眠っていたのかと驚いているぜ。
かわいいな。これライオン？
惜しいな。 それは猫ちゃんだ。にゃーん。
This guy's already weird, and I like him.
私には四足獣であることさえわかんないんだけど。
イラストがいっぱいで楽しいノートになってるね。夏くんはすごいな。
俺なんかまだまだだぜ。必ずススハラの域にグレートゾーンに達してやるぜ。
This was Natsuya Atsuta. Natsuya Atsuta, my best friend. He was a very unique and funny guy. I don't know why, but he'd taken a liking to me ever since we met at the opening ceremony.
ハルミヤも俺に女子力で負けてるようじゃまだまだだな。
あんたにだけは言われたくない。
あのさ、よく2人が僕に女子力って言うけど、女子力って何？
説明の必要はねえ。ススハラのグレートな一面の一つに過ぎないぜ。
He seems to like this word great. Like he wants to be great and he's very expressive about it. I wish I could roll my tongue like that. Great. I can't do it.
大体ね、スズムは生まれてくる性別を間違えてると思う。私が女子力を身につけるために日々どれだけ花嫁修行してると思ってんの？
そうだな、日々修行だぜ。俺ももっと可愛いイラストでノートを埋められるよう修行するぜ。
あつさくんはちょっと黙ってて。でもススハラくんってすごいよね。武道やってるんだって。すっごい強いらしいよ。
当たり前だろ。あれでなよなよしてたらただのオカマ野郎だぜ。ススハラのグレートなところは男としての強さを持ちながら女のような繊細さを併せ持つところさ。
確かにすっごい腕力だよね。ずっと鍛えてるそうだし。
それだけじゃねえ。あいつの拳を見てみろ。あれはかなりグレートな修羅場をくぐった拳だぜ。
Yeah, he really likes the word great.
これはちょっとささくれちゃってて、クリームとか塗ってるんだけどね。
My father ran a martial arts dojo. As a result, he had trained me ever since I was little. Said training involved punching trees wrapped in straw and the like, so my hands were pretty roughed up. Though I guess that might have made me stronger than the average person too. On the first day of school, I'd accidentally made eye contact with Natsuya, and he challenged me to an arm wrestling match on the spot, which I won. Afterwards, he said that was the first time he'd lost, and that caught his eye, and so on. He'd been fond of me ever since.
俺もススハラの親父さんの道場に通って鍛え直されたいぜ。そしてグレート夏也に生まれ変わって悪を拳で打ち砕きて。
うちのは武道とは言っても戦う武道じゃないし。
そうだよな。武道は戦うためのものじゃねえ、守るためのものだもんな。それでこそススハラ、やっぱりグレートな男だぜ。
ありがとう。
見てなさいよスズム。次の授業はめっちゃキュートなノートを取って私の女子力を証明してやるんだから。
あら、可愛いイラストがいっぱいのノートね。誰のノートなの？
うわ、雛形先生だ。次補体だぜ。
Hinagata.
雛形先生、これ見てください。このススハラくんのノート。男子の文才でこんな可愛いノートが取れるなんて裏山許せません。
そんなに可愛く描いてるつもりはないんだけどな。
I wish we could see these drawings, like if there was a CG picture of them. I'm curious
鈴原
now.
君はお勉強を楽しんでるから、それがこういう形で現れるのね。勉強も人生も何も塗ってない食パンと同じなの。そのまま食べても味気ないのは当然。そうでしょ？
確かにあのクソつまらねえ社会の授業はそのままじゃ干からびた食パンも同然。
その授業にこの可愛いイラストで彩りを添えたと。
そうしたらもっと社会の授業好きになれるかなって思って。
I wish I thought to do that when I took notes in school. It was always boring for me.
味気ない日常に潤いを与えるのもまた素敵な女子力だと思うわよ。ああ、私も身につけたいわね。
私も頑張って身につけます。
さすがはスハラだぜ。やっぱりグレートだぜ。
I love the way he says great.
そんなにみんなに褒められることをしたつもりはないんだけどな。
そういう気持ちで書いたから素敵なのよ。
Alright, this is all very wholesome and all, and I get we're meeting the characters, but when are we gonna get to more scary shit?
もしこれが可愛さアピールで狙って書いてたら、鈴原くんはとんだ腹黒作詞ね。
It has happened twice now, out of nowhere, so it could happen at any time, anywhere. I'm wondering if it can happen in school too.
作詞？やっぱりこれも計算なのか。やっぱりスハラはグレートだぜ。
よくわかんないけど褒めてくれて嬉しいな。
あんまり褒めてる部類には入んないと思う。
ほら、チャイムよ。みんな着席して。
She seems like a cool teacher, the kind that all the students like.
次は先生の楽しい保健体育の時間よ。
雛形先生の授業は楽しいから好きだな。
先生は男子に人気あるからね。
Ah, jeez.
みんなあの大きい胸が気になるんでしょう。
当たり前だぜ。あの中には男の夢とロマンが8切れんばかりに詰まってるんだぜ。
Alright, I have had pretty chill female teachers in school before, like the kind that can actually be friendly with the class, but never to the point where you could say something like that in front of her.
残念でした。正解は志望と入選です。
Alright, how is she gonna react? Is she gonna be like, hey, don't talk like that to your teacher, or is she gonna encourage it?
さ
Let's
すが
see.
キコちゃん勉強してるな。
Suzumu couldn't be happier with his school life. He'd integrated perfectly into the class, and each day was just as satisfying as the last. It wasn't just Suzumu either. Everyone in the class was happy, and they were basking in the glory of their adolescent days. Suzumu's classmates all took their seats as they reluctantly ended their conversations. Everyone bowed as commended to by the class representative, and the once lively classroom fell silent yet again. The silence was abruptly broken by the sound of the rear door opening, attracting the attention of the entire class. Okay. 2A was a class where anyone could enjoy themselves. Everyone there felt that way. But there was one person they all avoided. That someone was her.
黒髪さん、着席なさいな。
Koro Kami. Toei Koro Kami.
何？そう、着席して。ページは38ページよ。
Miss Hinagata smiled as she responded, but it wasn't like they were carrying on a conversation. Indeed, it was more like she was a mother responding to an infant's babble. The girl's name was Toei Korokami. The only way to describe her would be a wonder. It's interesting, like the background of her is all dark and green, while everyone else's intro screen was all pink and bubbly. She staggered to her seat in the back of the class, next to the window like a ghost. As she did, the rest of the class averted their eyes or pretended they didn't notice her. None of them budged in the slightest until they heard her take her seat. It bears repeating, but the one way to describe her would be a wonder. She always carried a Japanese doll with her and never let go of it, even for a second. There were whispers that it must be a cursed doll whose hair grew longer when they weren't paying attention. That said, there wasn't anything wondrous about it. It was just an eerie doll. Many wondered if she was even allowed to bring it to school. Yet no one would say a word about it. Isn't that the same doll from the opening title? What's more, Toei never let go of the doll, not even during classes. Could Toei be the ritual princess? Yet no one would say a word about it. Even though she never held a pencil or opened a textbook. Even at that very moment, she just kept on holding the doll as she stared off into space. But Miss Hinagata didn't even try to reprimand her. That went for the other teachers too. No matter what subject they were teaching, none of them told her to put it away. Far from it. They said nothing even when she would suddenly rise to her feet and leave the classroom. She'd even done so that very day, staggering out of the classroom at the very beginning of social studies. Yet the social studies teacher hadn't reprimanded her. Merely asked if she was going to the infirmary again. Her head was in the clouds, regardless of the subject. There was no way the school could allow that. And yet the whole school allowed Toei Korokami. Her classmates would wonder if she was a ghost, or if the teachers couldn't see her. The very notion was ridiculous, of course, but no one laughed. For they understood she was an ominous presence they'd do best not to get involved with. In spite of that, the class was getting used to her existence and strange habits. April was almost at its end, and the whole class had already mostly stopped paying her any mind.
黒髪さんって不思議な人だね。
あの子はそっとしてあげて。
黒髪がススコーの入試で合格点を出せたなんてちょっと信じがたいぜ。
Forget passing, no one could even imagine her holding a pencil. Natsuya's comment was on point. It confounded the mind to envision how she had been allowed to join the school in the first place.
黒髪家ってこの辺りでは有名な大金持ちだからね。
グレートマネーパワーで裏口ってわけかもな。
Great money power.
そんなことを言っちゃ悪いよ。
But everyone thought so. No one believed she had been accepted through the proper channels. The more one thought of her, the more of a mystery she became.
1年の時からずっと黒髪さんはこんな感じなんだって。人形を抱いたまま授業も受けずにぼんやりして。
それじゃあ テストとか補習とか大変じゃないかな。
何もかも特例らしいぜ。補習にも出なくていいし、そもそもテストの順位表に名前も出ねえらしい。
私の聞いた子もそう言ってた。学校側からその存在を無視されてるって。
Indeed, they were ignoring her even now. The teacher should have been able to see her from where she stood, yet she continued with the lesson like nothing was wrong. That was very mysterious, and depending on one's mindset, eerie. He didn't exactly have much in common with her, so Suzumu hadn't really paid her any mind so far. Every school has its own troublemakers and quirky students. The types everyone ignores because it would be a pain to get involved with them. Toei was certainly occupying that role that had been his only evaluation of her. But the more he thought now, the more conscious of her he became. Suzumu had never felt this way before. It was bizarre. Making sure the teacher wasn't watching, he looked back at Toei. She was staring blankly at the ceiling. She didn't so much as even glance at him. Yet for some reason, Suzumu's gaze was drawn to her. It wasn't exactly love at first sight, but deep down, Suzumu felt an unrest that was similar, yet completely removed from it. Was it anxiety? Or a sense of responsibility? A sense of duty that said he needed to do something, perhaps? Not even Suzumu understood the strange feelings now roiling within him. Roiling within him. Toei Korokami. Just what was it about her?
ポツンと浮いててかわいそうだから声をかけようかなとか。
いや、
私はよした方がいいと思うよ。
目が合うと呪われるらしいぜ。
そんなことあるわけないよ。
彼女のことを不憫に思って声をかけた女の子もいたって去年の話だけど。
その話俺も聞いたぜ。
それでその女の子はどうしたの？
なんか精神を病んで最後には不登校になっちゃったらしいよ。
悪霊に取りつかれたとかで親と一緒にお祓いまでしたとかなんとか。
僕は信じないな。
Tsubakiko and Natsuya's eyes widened.
確かに彼女には少し近寄りがたい雰囲気があるよね。周りの人がちょっぴり不吉な印象を持ったとしても不思議はない。でもだからって面白半分に広まったに違いない、そんな噂話を真に受けるわけにはいかないな。
ちょっとびっくり。案外進って芯が強いんだね。
僕は人を見かけや噂話で評価しちゃいけないってずっと言われて育ってきた。僕だって僕のことをよく知りもしない人に外見や噂なんかで勝手に判断されたくない。小学校の頃は顔が女みたいだって言ってよくからかわれたんだ。体がなよなよしていて男らしくないんだろうって一方的に言われてすごい嫌だった。
それに関しては俺も返す言葉がね。
Natsuya also had been convinced Suzumu was a weakling when he first met him. He challenged him to that arm wrestling match as a prank, only for his opponent to take a direct 180 after the boy had soundly defeated him. Now realizing why Suzumu had taken up martial arts, Tsubakiko felt a little ashamed of herself.
周りの扱いが人を作ることもあると思うんだ。あの子だってひょっとしたら周りの扱いのせいでああいう振る舞いになってしまっただけかもしれない。
なるほどな。
話しかけたら意外にいい人かもしれないよ。
Even though it looked like they understood, it didn't seem like they wanted to talk to Toei Korokami either way. Apparently, it wouldn't be easy for them to erase the sinister impression of her they'd built up in their minds.
なんだかそれが転校生の僕の使命のように思えてきたよ。
使命？またグレートなことを言い出すぜ。
I don't know what happened last year, but that may be exactly why I needed to be the one to talk to her. A flame had been lit within Suzumu. It was telling him to go talk to her. Perhaps there was something she needed as well.
では次のページを誰に読んでもらおうかしら。秋田くん。
あ、はい。
スズムは偉いね。人の評価に惑わされず自分で確かめたいって気持ちすごく
当たり前のことだと思うけどな。
でもね、スズム、愚者は経験に学ぶって言葉知ってる？
知らない。何それ？
私もどこの偉人が言った言葉かは知らないけど、でもネットで見たことがあるの。愚者は経験に学び、賢者は歴史に学ぶって。
Fools learn from experience, the wise learn from history. I'd never heard that before, but I could guess what it meant.
10階建てのビルの屋上から飛び降りれば死ぬ。誰でも知ってるよ。でもスズムはそれを自分で体験しない限り信じないって言ってる。危険を避けるために人々の累積した知識、歴史に耳を傾けるべき時もあるんじゃないかな。
そんな大げさな話じゃないよ。黒髪さんに話しかけたら僕が死んじゃうなんてあるわけがない。
それはそうだけど、でもみんなが彼女を敬遠し薄気味悪く思い遠ざける。その蓄積された歴史を無視して我が身で確かめようとするスズムは、ひょっとしたら命知らずかもしれないよ。
It hadn't been that long since I reunited with Kiko, but I'd never seen her look so serious. It was a shockingly stern expression, like the face of a mother makes when scolding her child for trying to run out into the street when the light was red.
私の第六感的なものがささやくの。スズムは黒髪さんとは関わらない方がいいと思う。
キコちゃん。
私止めたからね。
Well, that's ominous. This is rather sudden. But, huh? Who's this? My name is Yuto Akagawa. Who the hell is Yuto Akagawa? Not that you have to remember it. Everyone only calls me by my nickname. What sort of nickname is that? Fatigawa. If you ask the rest of the class about me, they'd say I was everyone's favorite laughingstock, the kind of person everyone makes fun of. You see those on variety shows all the time, right? Where the comedians get put through bizarre punishments and everyone laughs at them? Well, that was me. I was always the butt of such jokes. That day was no different. A comedian got stripped down to just his underwear and had embarrassing things written all over him with felt markers. The people on TV all had a good laugh. The viewers probably did the same. But I never laughed. I just felt sympathy for the comedian, seeing them like that. No, not sympathy, fear. Because I knew that would be me tomorrow.
おいデブ、赤デブ、しりとりやろうぜ、しりとり。俺たち友達だろ。なあ、遊ぼうぜ。
So this Yuto guy is being bullied at school, it seems. When lunch break came around, a bunch of crass boys would always force me to play with them. I was by no means popular. And though they called it playing, I was the only one getting played with.
じゃあ俺から行くぞ。デブのブからな。ブルー。ほらルだよ、ル。早くしろよデブ。
54321はい、デブの負け。
They were just looking for an excuse to put me through humiliating punishments for losing. It would go on until I lost, and recently they've been coming up with unfair reasons to knock me out right off the bat. If I didn't play along, or if I showed any displeasure, they'd get really violent. So all I could do was force a smile and take it. Better to be their plaything than their punching bag. Yes, this was better.
おいデブ、服脱げ服。ほら早くしろよ。
Yeah, that's not cool. See what I mean? I'd already resigned myself to the last night, so I was calm about it. They all tugged at my clothes, trying to force them off. It'd be a pain if I fought back only to lose a button, so I just gave an embarrassed smile and stripped myself. And once I was reduced to my briefs and shoes, they brought a marker out of nowhere, called it. But it was an oil-based one. Getting this off wouldn't be easy.
大丈夫だよ。風呂入れば落ちるって。
うわ、お前汗ベトベトじゃん。ペン先滑るよ。汚ね
ー。Bunch of assholes. They wrote all sorts of nasty comments on my stomach, back, thighs, and even briefs. And then they cackled, just like people on TV. But here, no comedic music would play to soften the blow. My parents didn't care about me. Figures, given I was a wimp who'd been bullied his whole life. If they knew I was getting bullied, they'd just hit me and yell at me for being such a pushover. Yeah, this poor kid. So I just put up with it, throw away my underwear, and wash off all the writing in the bath so they wouldn't find out. But this trend just kept going on, and the crude comments on my body would escalate day after day. Worse, it's nearly impossible to wash off writing from oil-based markers. Water just doesn't cut it. You need to take a nylon towel and rub your skin really hard. As the result of doing this every day, my skin got raw and painful. It stung everywhere the hot water touched it. That pain would serve as a constant reminder of how my body had been reduced to a sketchbook for bullies. Huh? All of a sudden, the lights went out. It was pitch black. Oddly enough, my thoughts ground to a halt too, as if time had stopped in the darkness. No point in getting worked up about it. My parents would surely take care of it. If I made a scene, they'd scold me for being a wimp who couldn't take care of himself. But just then, the shower stopped. It really did feel like time had stopped. What in the world was going on? All I could hear was the labored breathing coming out of my nose. It scared me, like there was a terrifying demon just nearby. Oh my god. I heard a spine-tingling voice from the depths of hell on my back. It came from within the bathroom, right behind me. The words lingered and echoed off the walls. This game is going back and forth with a lot of different people experiencing different phenomenons. I'm wondering where the connection point is between Kiko's very disgusting daydream to Suzuhara seeing the ash falling from the ceiling, and now this guy having a voice talk to him in the bathtub.
僕を助けてくれるの？
It doesn't even say his name. It just says me. That's a first.
もうこんな目に遭いたくないんだ。
I couldn't stand the humiliation any longer. Interesting. Feed off misery. Normally, I could never give that ominous presence what it desired. But not only had it been yet another day of getting covered in embarrassing scribbles, some girls saw me and laughed this time. That bitterness urged me on. An elementary schooler was humming as he walked down the road, clearly in high spirits. The street was desolate. No one else was watching. Oh no. If I was gonna do it, then this would be my chance. I approached him from behind, aimed for the back of his head, and... thwack. I ran for the hills. Oh jeez. Alright, I was thinking he killed him. The boy's cries chased me like a specter, but I ignored them and dashed away. There, I did it. That boy was hit by a complete stranger out of nowhere. By bringing about that misery, I had given that thing what it wanted. I felt a little guilty, but that was outweighed by an overwhelming sense of triumph. And besides, it looked like that boy was coming back from school in a good mood. If he was that happy, it was only fair that he shared some of it with me, so there was no need for me to feel bad, right? Happy now, I kept my end of the bargain. Wow. I could hear that thing laughing in the distance. That night, I waited in the bath for it to show up again, but it didn't. I kept washing my body and waited for the lights to go out again, but they didn't. My body stung. It was itchy. Even after I went to bed and turned out the lights, my chest and back kept aching. The next day, I checked my stomach to find it swelling all reddish purple. But if I told my parents, and it came out that I'd been getting bullied, they'd scold me. It was okay. It'd go away if I just left it alone. Yes. There are so many fucked up people in this game. It kept throbbing during classes. I couldn't concentrate.
はい、時間切れ。腹だぜ、腹。お前風呂でちゃんと洗ってんだろうな。昨日背中のやつ残ってたぞ。
I was in for yet another scribbling punishment during lunch break. But this time, the aching in my chest and back was more painful. The swelling there was chafing against my shirt. So having those guys take off my clothes and touch me would actually feel better. In fact, I just wanted to take off my clothes. I wanted to take my clothes off myself. It was itchy, 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 itchy. Itchy, 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 itchy. What the fuck? And when I took off my shirt, the swelling finally stopped itching. My chest and back writhed with pleasure like worms after a rain. There were several purplish black swollen blobs pulsating on them, rejoicing in the fresh air. To me, they looked like one of those face assembly puzzles. Eyes, noses, mouths, those scattered parts protruded from my chest, from the blobs, and trembled. What is going on? A cloudy stringy secretion similar to phlegm gushed out from them. Gross. The demon had certainly kept its promise. After all, the looks of horror on the bullies made it clear they wouldn't even think about touching me now. I'd wish to never go through something like that again. And the thing granted it. Seeing the bullies fall comically on their backsides in terror felt a bit liberating even. I was sure their days of bullying me were at an end. But all of a sudden, they kicked me to the ground. They kicked my, God, can we stop with the sound effects? They kicked my eyes, noses, and mouths of the blobs on my chest, and back over and over and over again, crushing them into paste. The blobs would gush like, God, I'm trying to read with the noises. The blobs would gush the snot-like secretion with each kick, sticking like string to their shoes. God, I don't know what's worse, the image I'm getting from the words or the sounds. As for me, well, I felt no pain. Far from it. I felt on top of the world for giving them the fright of their lives. Eventually, they kicked me so much that my whole body had swollen purple and became a blob itself. And so they continued stopping me, crushing me flat as I continued spewing that gooey secretion. Ah, thank God it's over. In the end, I was reduced to nothing more than a reddish-black puddle, like blood mixed with mucus, that faded away. Thus, they would never bully me again. However, I wish I'd been more specific with my wish. Like, I wish everyone who bullies me dies or something. But if I had, I don't think hitting a kid in the head would have been enough to satisfy that demon. However, I made another wish: kill them all. that demon's wish in exchange for that was surprisingly cheap. All I had to do was offer it the life of but a single student, any student. But that was impossible. I no longer had a body. I couldn't kill someone, much less touch them. Hey, after hearing all this, you feel bad for me, right? Sympathize with poor old me and take my place. Sacrifice someone. Just one person is fine, okay? Come on, please. Is he actually talking to me, the player? Like, will I actually have the choice to kill someone for this guy? I'm not sure I'm down for that. Sacrifice someone for me. Come on. Please. Please. A giant lump of meat beyond any possible description writhed in the darkness. It had no arms, legs, or even a head. Just a blob of flesh. Eyeballs, noses, and mouths poked out from all over it, spewing forth gooey phlegm from time to time. It was creeping closer and closer and closer. Just then, red eyes flashed in the darkness. And it wasn't just two of them. Countless pairs of red eyes encircled the blob. That is fucking terrifying. They were small Japanese dolls. Endless numbers of the exact same doll clamored about. The blob found itself surrounded on all sides. Is this guy still in the skull? I don't know where this is taking place anymore. Being dolls, they were completely expressionless. However, they clattered as they clambered over to the blob, one after another. Oh my god. By this point, the blob was nothing more than a piece of candy tossed into a swarm of ants. It no longer had anything past the oncoming incursion of the dolls. It howled as it squirmed out several strands of phlegm like a water gun. Dumb. The blob was clearly screaming in its death throes. But much like a piece of candy amidst a swarm of ants, the dolls showed the blob no mercy and devoured it whole. With howls and the occasional sound of spewing phlegm, the blob faded into the darkness. What the actual fuck? I know nothing. And I feel like I know less as this game goes on. The dog sitting at Toei's side appeared to shake for a moment. Show. Oh, so the doll was sitting next to Toei, so she wasn't holding it?
うるさく言われてなかったらそんな気に悪い人形速攻ゴミ箱なのによ。
There was a wet sound followed by the sweet scent of saliva. Toei's lips... What is going on? Toei's lips shone sensually with a thin silver string trailed from... as a thin silver string trailed from them. I don't know what's going on. And once more she put the boys to... What? She put the boy's toes right back in her moist mouth. What?
頭さえいかれてなきゃよ。結構いい女なのよ。
What the fuck did I just walk into?
やめんじゃねえよ。続けろやグズ。
Oh my god. The boy kicked Toei in the chest with his bare foot. But like a dog, she groveled before him yet again. What is anything? What is anything? I am genuinely shocked beyond words. I have no idea what to make of anything. She started sucking his toes once more, like a baby would its mother's breast. Jesus. The school's bike lot was empty except right before and after school, and so had become a gathering spot for delinquents. Thus, delinquent groups would often meet up here during lunch break and the like. About 10 of them were here at this moment. Wait, does he have an audience watching this? They would curse, spit, and tell each other all sorts of crude stories, with deplorable smiles on their faces. A ways apart from them was their leader, Kamenuma, getting his toe sucked by Toei Korokami. Just, casually, like what normally would happen every day.
翔さんって性癖変わってますよね。
ほんとほんと。足より舐めさせるとこがあるでしょうに。
俺はよ、そういうのはきちんとしてるわけ。そういうのは結婚するまでお預けするたちなわけよ。つうかさ、それで先行来た時、焦ってチャックで挟んだら笑えねえじゃん。歯をぶつけんなっつっただろ。
It seemed Sho had gotten the area under his toenail stuck in Toei's tooth while he'd been convulsing with laughter. I really didn't need that image, but thank you. He suddenly roared angrily and kicked her away with his free left foot. Toei's slender body fell right over. Sho must have shown her no mercy. However, it seems she didn't even understand the cruelty inflicted upon her, for she groveled before Sho's foot yet again and started trying to... her expression never changing even once. But Sho, fed up by this point, placed his foot on Toei's face and kicked her down again.
やめなよ。
Okay, Suzumu, finally.
あ？
乱暴は良くないと思うよ。
なんだてめえ。誰よ。
2の A のすす払ってやろっす。
The delinquents consider this place their stronghold, their sanctuary. They hated it when outsiders stepped in on their turf. So they frowned, rose to their feet, and glared at Suzumu.
黒髪さん、嫌なことなら嫌だってちゃんと言わなきゃ。それが言いづらいようなら僕が先生に相談するよ。
Yes. Suzumu, MVP.
ああ？ちくりかよ。上等じゃねえかこれ。
お前、チクった後どうなるか分かってんのか？あ？
おとなしくチャリに空気入れて帰れや、ボケ。
Suzumu had brought a tire pump he'd borrowed from the superintendent's room. He'd come because his tires were low on air. Come to think of it, Kiko did tell him she wouldn't recommend doing it during lunch, didn't she? Now I see why. She was implying this place was a den of delinquents. Suzumu was tense in his own right, but it didn't look that way. And that pissed the delinquents off.
あのよ、なんか勘違いしてるみてえだけどさ、トエはさ、俺にいじめられていやいややってるわけじゃねえわけ。なあ、トエ。
Toei staggered to her feet and stared blankly at Suzumu. She wrapped her arms around Sho and clung to him with all she had, but her expression remained the same even then.
こいつはさ、俺の女なわけ。
自分の女に乱暴をするなんて思えないよ。
気を許し合ってるからこそってわけよ。お前何様？俺とトエがどういう関係か何も知らないなら引っ込んでろよな。
女の子を蹴り飛ばしてもいい関係なんて僕には思いつかないよ。
おう、あんまふかしてっと死なすぞこら。
One of the delinquents stepped forward and grabbed Suzumu by the collar. But Suzumu simply grabbed his arm, unfazed.
あ
おい、大丈夫かよ。
痛えよ痛えよ、すっげえバカ力だよこいつ。ああ痛え。
It was at that point the delinquents noticed Suzumu's unassumingly rugged fists. The lack of fear he showed when faced with their numbers made it easy to imagine he was trained in martial arts. They glared furiously at Suzumu, but didn't try to grab him again. Just then, the bell rang, signaling the end of lunch break.
A 組のススハラとか言ったか。てめえのことは覚えておくからな。
さっきの乱暴を黒髪さんに謝らない限り、僕も君のことは忘れないから。
Man, Suzumu's a badass. Oh god.
なめてんのかてめえ、この場で知るか。ああ。
He hadn't imagined Suzumu would actually talk back. Surging with white-hot rage, Sho pulled a metal bat out of a nearby bike's umbrella stand. Oh! Suzumu finally looked surprised when he realized that shout had come from Tsubakiko.
バキコかよ。てめえの出る幕じゃねえだろ。
スズムは私のダチなわけ。
Whoa, that voice!
血祭りにされてえかこら。捨て頃もできねえ玉なし野郎が。
Damn! Badassery must run in the family.
潰すわクソはな。この場でぶっ殺されるかこれ。
翔ちゃん、まずいって。落ち着けって。面倒を起こしたら先輩になんて言われるか。
命拾いしたな、スサラ。
約束するよ。
Sho left in a huff as the other delinquents tried to calm him down. Toei staggered on after them.
黒髪さん。
But before Suzumu could ask if she was okay, Toei pushed him away. And for the first time, the two looked in each other in the eye. Though Toei's face was blank, her eyes were brimming with emotion, with tears and rejection. Her tears streaked downward and fell to the ground. Toei pushed Suzumu away again and left. Suzumu watched her leave as he reflected on her parting words. Why? You're too late. Oh no. Was she hoping someone would come help her sooner? Oh man. That's so sad. She said that he knew.
さすがグレイトな男だぜ、セスハラ。あれだけの人数相手にビビりもしねえなんてな。さすがは俺が認めたグレイトセスハラだぜ。
アツタくん、一緒に来たのに隠れてたでしょ。情けないな。そんなのじゃ彼女できた時愛想をつかされちゃうよ。
俺はまだ修行中の身だからな。女なんてまだまだ早えぜ。
ありがとうキコちゃん、助けてくれて。
ああいうバカを挑発するのはノンノンだよ。だから私、昼休みに駐輪場はやめた方がいいよって言ったのに。
ごめんね、昼休みがもったいないからって意味だと思ってたよ。
I want to know more about Tsubakiko putting on that voice and like just standing up to the boys like that, because that didn't look like an act. That looked like true experience of hers. So I'm wondering if maybe she was part of their gang before. I don't know.
それにしてもキコちゃんもかっこよかったよ。
Or maybe part of a rival gang for them. But whatever it is, they were that show guy. He knew her, and it looked like he was afraid of her at least a little bit.
そうそう、グレイトな単価だったぜ。そうか、スサラは知らねえのか。何しろハルミヤは中学の頃は。
Oh.
昼休みは終わったよ。早く戻ってレッツ5次元目をスタディしないとね。
Yeah, she's being all cute now. So maybe in middle school he was about to say she was in a lot of fights, and now she's trying to put that behind her. That's the feeling I'm getting.
ナツくん、どうしたの？具合悪いの？
さあねえ、つわりじゃないの？私が肩を貸すから、スズムは早く教室に行って。
It appeared more like she was giving him a headlock than a hand, though. I love Tsubakiko and Suzumu. Like, both of them, they're awesome. By the time class resumed, Kurokami was back in her seat, holding her doll and staring off into space like always. Why? You're too late. The way she was in class, I couldn't imagine her speaking her mind as clearly as that. I thought I knew what I heard, but I was starting to wonder if it was my mind playing tricks on me. Kurokami. What did she mean by too late? I mean, that show guy, he did say, like, he wasn't gonna do anything more than that to her until after they're married, so that puts my mind at ease in that regards, but I do wonder, like, what else he did do to her that she didn't want to. That's kind of upsetting. I used to be so indifferent, but I found that I couldn't get my mind off her for some reason. Too late, as in past the point of no return. But what? What didn't I make it in time for? Black snow started gently falling between us. No, not snow, soot. Jet black soot piled up, burying me in Kurokami's world in darkness. The final class of the day ended, and my classmates filled out of the room one after another. But instead, I walked over to Korokami.
何か力になれることがあったら言ってね。
何も。お前はあまりに
遅すぎる。
Kurokami said nothing. That silence was a clear affirmation that by too late, she was indeed referring to me.
わからないよ。僕の何が遅すぎたの？僕は非力かもしれないけれど、黒髪さんが苦しんでいるなら、それを救うことができるかも。
Okay. Her eyes were glazed over. Nothing I said was getting to her. There was nothing more I could say to keep her there.
なんでもあの二人、いいなずけ同士らしいぜ。
It seems like... oh, wait, no. I'm not reading that. He's saying it.
いいなずけ？黒髪さんとあいつが？
Wait, what?
亀沼のやつがすすだに引っ越してきたのは中1の時らしいんだけど、あんなクズのどこがお眼鏡にかなったやら。
中学では有名だったぜ。いいなずけがいるやつがいるらしいってな。
So Kurokami and Sho are legit engaged? Like, what? What?
どうしてそんなことに？
Yeah, please explain. Sho Kamenuma had moved to Suzuda only 4 years ago. On the other hand, the Kurokamis were a family who'd owned a lot of land in this region for generations. What could the two families possibly have in common? In contrast to the wealthy and famous Kurokamis, the Kamenumas barely had a penny to their names, to say nothing of land. But by autumn, Sho Kamenuma had already engaged to Toei.
何しろ多感なお年頃だからよ。学校中で話題になったぜ。
あいつも最初はさぞや浮かれただろうね。
That has to be a family arrangement, right? Because there's no way, like, they, God, I don't know anymore. I'm trying to make sense of this and nothing is making sense.
でもすぐに黒髪さんがちょっと何のある子だと分かったみたいで。
どうしてあいつは、亀沼くんは許嫁を引き受けたんだろう。
噂が本当なら黒髪さんの一目惚れなんだって。
一目惚れ？
どうしても婿養子になってほしいって黒髪家が拝み倒したんだってさ。
Alright, so Toei's parents begged Sho to marry their daughter. Surely there's something in it for him and his family, maybe a shared wealth or something, but for what purpose? If Toei really is the ritual princess, then maybe this marriage will have something to do with a ritual. Or maybe she's going to sacrifice Sho for a ritual. I don't know.
その際にとんでもない金を積んだって噂だぜ。それで亀沼のやつ、グレイトに羽振りがいいらしいぜ。
Toei Korokami. She wasn't ordinary, that much was certain. It wasn't absurd to imagine her family going to great lengths to get her a husband. Still though, that didn't explain why they'd chosen a boy like that of all people. If they loved one another, then there'd be no issue. But it hadn't looked that way to Suzumu at all. At the very least, Kamenuma treated her more like a pet than anything else. And it hadn't felt like Toei held any love for him either. Too late. Because Suzumu had been too late, she'd been forced to accept this fate. It almost looked as though she'd resigned herself to that outcome, and suppressing her emotions, had sworn obedience to Kamenuma as a result. Natsuya waved goodbye goodbye to his friends in front of the deli in the shopping district. The shop's name was Atsuya's Piping Hot Deli. His family ran the place. Suzumu and Tsubakiko waved back as they left.
しつこいと思うかもしれないけど、黒髪さんに近づくのは良くないと思うよ。
I'm wondering if she knows more than she's letting on, or if she still is only going by a gut feeling.
どうして？
うまく言えないけど、良くない感じがするの。
Alright, I'll believe that for now.
そうかもしれないね。少なくとも彼女が遅すぎたにせよ、救いの手を求めていたのだけは間違いないと思う。
進む。
それが良くない感じの雰囲気になって感じられるんだと思うよ。
進む。
キコちゃん。
私、もう一度警告するからね。進むは黒髪さんに近づかない方がいい。絶対に何か恐ろしいことが起こるから。
She's enforcing this. She seems to be putting a lot of emphasis on this. Maybe she had another daydream about it. Another vivid daydream. And, like, maybe pieces of it are coming back to her. Like, no, if you talk to her, this will happen. I've seen it in a dream. Or, I don't know.
どうして
But I am
そんなことが
intrigued.
わかるの？
私の第六感、すっごく当たるんだよ。
ありがとう。用心するよ。
用心しながら近づくよって意味でしょ。もう知らない。
Tsubakiko stuck out her tongue and slammed the door to her apartment. Oh, well, his room is nicely furnished. The music's creepy, so I'm thinking something's about to come to terms here. But I will leave off this video here. I was certainly not expecting this game to be taking this many twists and turns just from the first episode. Hell, in the first 5 minutes, we see Tsubakiko getting crushed by a train, and it's like, oh, it's just a daydream, whatever. So I'm thinking Tsubakiko is kind of a medium of sorts. When she said her sixth sense is on point, I think she meant that literally. Like, she can see things like that. Korokami. I don't know what to make of anything. Like, I'm trying so hard to piece things together. And there was also that guy who was being bullied and he turned into a blob creature, it looked like. And he was, I don't know if he was talking to me, the player, when he said, come on, kill someone for me, I can't do it. What is happening? There's the black soot falling that it looks like only Suzumu can see. So obviously something's something involving soot with Suzumu. Kiko can see ghosts in daydreams? I don't know. But, you know what? I am shocked. This game has shocked me to the core, and I am very much intrigued as to where this is going. So, we'll see what happens next. Thank you everyone for tuning in to this very disturbing episode. I really appreciate it, and I will catch you all in the next episode. Later!